Hey guys, we're back in the shop today. I got Maria on the camera. We've got the shop in what you'd call lockdown, I guess. A little bit of sad news. If you guys remember Gary from some of the videos, and if you go back just a couple, when Matt and I went and got Gary's truck out of the yard, I think you guys remember him. Gary passed away on April 2nd. Complications of the coronavirus, and he was here, a couple of weeks ago, just like he's always been. He was here hanging around and we were doing things, and you would never know he had the virus. We are concerned because he was here about the shop, so the guys that normally come here, I'm asking everybody to stay away for a little bit. We need to get through April, and this whole thing is just a disaster with this coronavirus. So I'm asking everybody to stay at home. We clean the shop up, and it's just going to be me and Maria in here for a while. And it doesn't really hit home until somebody dies from this horrible virus. And there's a lot of people out there saying it's no big deal. We see a lot of people out and about in the world and stuff, driving by and stuff, and it's best just to stay home for a little bit. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Just stay home and let's try and contain this virus. It really, really, really leaves an impression on you when a friend dies. He wasn't even in the hospital. They didn't even get him to the hospital in time. He died at home. And it's crazy. We had plans to work on that J20 together, and we had a lot of plans, and the virus ruined all that. So I'm not trying to throw anybody out of the shop or anything, but just stay at home. I will come out with another video and let everybody know when it's safe again. But we're just gonna put our heads down and get some things done during April and stuff, and we'll get to it. So I don't want to be a doom and gloom kind of person, but it is real. People are dying. Stay at home and stay safe. So that's all I got to say about that. We are going to put a rear main seal in an engine today, a rope seal that a few guys have wanted to see. So we're going to get set up for that, and I'll be right back with you. Okay guys, we're going to get a rear main seal in here, a rope one, and when you get it out of the package, it's going to be round, just like that. What you want to do is make it the shape. It's kind of a rectangle here. You got to make it that shape. I've got aluminum block, and don't do this on your block. I'm just doing this here so we don't have to keep moving the camera. Just take a block or something. You got a body hammer. We're going to flatten this out. Some guys like to roll these with a socket. I like to hammer them. Okay, see what we got there? It's nice and flat. It's not round anymore. We're just going to take that and we're going to start shaping it. We're going to lay it down in that groove. If you have any chance of this working, it has to be bottomed out in that groove perfectly. So now we're going to take a tool like this. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, this is an old shock absorber. I took the rod, I took the shock apart, I took the inner rod out. I just made kind of whittled out an oak handle here. Had this for a long time. Okay, you're going to take this tool and you're going to start on each top side here. And you're going to push that down into the groove. I'm going to start from the ends and work toward the center. Try and get out of the way of the camera. Okay, you just You really got to get that down in the groove. Okay, we got that flattened out pretty good. I'm going to bring the camera around and try and get you a shot on this side with some light so you can see what I've actually done. So let me set up for that and I'll try and show you what that looks like. Okay guys, you can see what I got here. This is even all the way around here, and this area here is nice and flat. That needs to be flat because that's where your crank is going to sit. So that needs to be flat. It needs to be all the way down in this area right here, and it needs to be put in there tight. That's why we take that tool and we really roll it in there tight. Okay, now if you look, we're all the way in there. We're all the way in there. I'm going to take this out and show you what it looks like. Can you see that okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're all the way down in there, and then we flattened it out. Let's stick that back in there. It needs to be all the way down in there. And you could, if you're not sure if you're all the way in there, you can measure this from here to here, and then measure the depth of your groove. But you'll know when it's in there. You'll feel it. And we'll take our tool, and once again we'll start from the top and push it down. Start from the top on this side and push it down. And take your time when you're doing this, because if you start your engine and it leaks, you got to take the crank out again to change this out. So make sure you kind of burnish that in there real nice. Okay, now basically we're going to do the same thing with the cap. Here's our cap, and we're just going to do the same thing right here. So I'll do that. No sense in showing that again. I'll do that off camera and then show you how we trim it next. Okay guys, we're going to trim this next. I've just got a utility knife. You want to trim these flush with the block here. Don't think you need to leave it up so it can squeeze or anything. Trim that nice and flush. You just wind up with a little piece of stuff there. Okay, I did the same thing on the cap. You see that? Mm-hmm. Okay, now we're going to put the cap in. Take a look at it and stuff. And just a word about caps. They're all marked from the factory. I've got two L heads in here right now where somebody put different caps on them. I don't know if we can get the light in there good enough or zoom in, but can you see that Z there? Or maybe do it from the top. Yep. You want it? Okay guys, like I say, I've got a couple of blocks in here right now, and we're going to do a line boring video one of these days when I get set up for it. You see this Z right here? We know this cap belongs. I got it marked in red here. We know this cap belongs here. So many people think you can just mismatch caps. You can't. If you have a mismatched cap, you put a crank in there, it'll lock that crank up tight. You don't want that. You want to make sure every rear cap is marked. Make sure you have the right cap for your engine. Here's just some factory bolts here. and we'll bolt and we'll torque this down. But let me show you what I do next, which a lot of guys don't do, and it kind of gets them in trouble. So we pull this off again, and I'll get our rope seal mandrel, and we'll stick it in there and see where we're at. Okay guys, the next thing I like to do is take my rope seal mandrel that I have here and lay this in here. This is just a piece of an old hydraulic cylinder. If you guys want to make something like this, you go over to a hydraulic shop or something, get an old busted up hydraulic cylinder and cut a piece, and you'll have a nice mandrel here. Now we know the back of our crank is 2 inches 310 thousandths. This mandrel I made is 2 inch 309 thousandths. Just 1/1000th difference. Just want to make sure it goes in there easy. I'm going to take a tiny bit of Vaseline and lay it on this here so it's not dry. I'm going to do the same on the cap. A little bit of Vaseline, just for a little bit of lubrication. We're going to lay our mandrel in there. And we'll tighten our cap down. Now this is going to allow you to give a final burnish on your rope seal. I do see a lot of guys, and they put these in too tight, and then they start the engine, and the crankshaft is spinning, and there's all black graphite and stuff from the seal pouring out of the back of the engine. You don't want this too tight when your crank's in there. The old seals used to have some asbestos in them, and they lasted a real long time, and they were real good. But the new ones, they have a lot of graphite in them, and if you make it too tight, you'll burn right through them. So now we're going to take that mandrel and we're going to spin it. We're going to check the fit and give it a final burnish in there. Okay, and we'll torque these down a little bit tighter. Remember, take your time with this. You don't want to have to come in here again and change that seal, because the crankshaft is going to have to come out to do it. Okay, we're not going to smoke that seal out of there. I could turn that easily by hand. I feel pretty good about that. Let's disassemble that. Can you see that seal? Mm-hmm. Okay, look at how nice that seal is. We have no highs and lows, no pockets in there, no nothing. That's a properly burnished seal. You see it's deep in the cap. That won't go down in there and cause a leak or anything. That is, get some of that Vaseline off there. That is a properly installed rope seal. So we're going to continue on and do the dowels and stuff, but that is a super smooth surface on there, and we won't have any leaks from that. Okay, guys, I like to use the Permatex Right Stuff. I've got a tiny little bit of gasket sealant right there, right there. I have a tiny bit on the cap. Now in your manuals and stuff, you're going to see they want you to put a tiny little bit on this surface here. Be very careful when you do that. If you put too much there, you'll change your oil clearance, and that's a bad thing. So what I do is I put a little bit on this scribe here. Just going to lay a tiny little bit in there, right in the corner, I don't ever have trouble, and nobody should have trouble with oil leaking out these surfaces here. They're precision machined, and I've never had any trouble with that. So don't slather up that whole thing. Just a little bit in the corner. Tiny bit along the back there. Okay. Don't overdo it with the RTV. Just a tiny little bit to seal the ends of the rope seal. And then we're going to put this on again with our mandrel in there. Again, this is just a junk block. This is a cracked block. We're not putting a crank in here. Just want to show you guys the steps. When you torque your cap down, go 40, 60, and then 75. Again, we're not putting a crank in there. We're not gonna torque that perfectly. That is a good feeling fit on the crank, or what will be the crank. So now we got to put these dowels in. If you remember from the last video, I have different dowels that actually fit in there. Excuse me. And you can put that in. We got a little bit of junk in that one. I got different size dowels, but see, when you get to this point, if you got a tight dowel, we could just go and get a different size one. I've got many different sizes there. Now those are meant to stick up, and when you put the oil pan down, they squish, and they're supposed to seal this whole line and this line back here. It doesn't always work, and I'm going to show you the method I use, but let me fit these dowels first, and I'll show you what I use. And I got a jig that squeezes everything. I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. Okay guys, I take a little bit of this Permatex Right stuff, and a long time ago I had an engine builder doing some engines for me. He would jam that down in there and he'd fill that whole thing up with this stuff. Never had any leaks, but when you go to take that rear cap off, it's a bear. So what I'm going to do is just kind of squeeze a little bit in there. Squeeze just a little bit in there. And take our dowels. We're going to send those guys down in there. And the pressure wants to dig them back up again. But we'll see if we can get this caught. There's a piece of heavy angle iron. Oops. We're going to put this on here. Again, we're fighting a little bit of hydraulic pressure from that sealant in there. But you'll see what we're doing when we do it. Okay, now I don't know if you can see in here and in here, and then also in the back. I'll show you. We'll try and get you some close-ups with some better lighting. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze those guys down in there. Missing a socket. Hang in there. I'll be right back. Okay guys, putting this plate down, this is squishing the dowels down. And that's taking all of our RTV, pushing it out the crack there. Okay, that's just like the oil pan tightening down. Can you see in here? Mm-hmm. Okay, you see the Let me get in there with the pick. Hang in there. I don't know what I did with it. Okay, anyway, you see we got some RTV squeezing out right here. And we've got it coming out all up in here. The dowel is squeezing out that little bit that we put in there. It's hard to see in there, but it's squeezing out. And hard to see in the back, but it's pushing out of there as well. So a little bit of RTV in there. Squish your dowels down in it. It's going to fill up all these cracks and expand all that RTV out of there, and you won't have any leaks. Wipe it off the back here. Okay. And then we want to turn our manual again. Make sure everything is good. That's going to be a perfect fit on the crank. And what I do is I leave this overnight. This is squeezing those rubber dowels down in there. I come off the next day. I take it off the next day, and I cut the dowels flush with the oil pan gasket. So you'll leave them up maybe about 1/8 of an inch. You'll trim those off and continue on with your rebuild like that, and you will have a rope style rear main seal that will not leak. You put your crank in there. Make sure your crank is nice and smooth. Make sure the surface is 2-inch 310, and you will have a long life leak-free engine if you take your time and you put the seal in like that. If anybody has any questions about the rope seal installation, just send me a comment below. But take your time, get it all the way in the groove, and if you have a mandrel, it is helpful. If not, just keep burnishing it in there until it's perfect. Try your crank, rotate it. If it's too tight, take it out, and just keep at it like we did here, and it won't leak. So I hope everybody got something out of this, and the guys that were looking to see it got some tips from it. We're going to end this one here today. As always, thanks for watching, and everybody try and stay safe and healthy out there. We will catch you on the next video.